everyone, it's Jill, of course, and Jamie here on the Heads and Dovetails podcast. And I know we have a few regular listeners because I met one, Jamie. I actually
Yay!
met one in person. So a shout out to Paula and actually the business that her husband runs. And this feels like I'm doing a sponsorship shout out, Jamie, our very first
Yes,
one. But I
just
know
do
there was
it.
a quote that you said that you wanted where she said she loves it. And she said, yeah, I'm happy for you to use it, but if you give me a shout out. So this is just for you and your husband, Paula. And he runs Kevin Holling's Kitchens in Suffolk. So if anybody wants a bespoke kitchen, designed, built, fitted, please go and have a look at Kevin Holling's Kitchens in Suffolk and follow them on social media. There you are, Jamie. I think I've done my bit. And before we forget, this will be the last podcast before
Yes,
Christmas because it'll be
I
exactly
know.
3 weeks and it'll be Christmas. So we're going to have a bit of a break, aren't we? And then start again
We are.
the first, not the 1st of January, because that's also a Wednesday. So the next podcast will be released the following week, which is what, 7th of January, something like that. But I know you messaged me to say you've got lots to talk about. So I'm just going to hand over to you, Jamie. What are we talking
Well,
about?
we are,
Well, well.
there's things going on. Yeah, there's things going on, and I thought I want to have a chat with Jill, and then I just thought I looked at my chat and I put it in the chat, and I thought, hang on, this has been 3 weeks, and today's a Monday. We normally do it Monday morning.
Hmm.
I didn't remind you. You didn't remember to do the thing. So all of this is all sort of happening quite quick, which is
Hmm.
fine with me. I'm going to tell you. So we normally have a 10-minute chat before we've done none of that today.
We're going straight for it.
I'm currently in bed. I'm in bed because I've got a slip disc,
Oh, Jamie,
which
no.
happened last Sunday. I was putting a sock on and I had shooting pain down my back, down my leg, dropped onto the floor, and I was just like, wow, what's going on? And yeah, I sort of thought it was backache, and then by Thursday I was progressively getting worse, and I just thought this is this is more serious than just backache.
Mm.
So I went and saw the doctor, and lovely student doctor to start with, and then my GP came along and just confirmed and whatever. But yes, uh, sciatica and slip disc. So I've got the pain going down my leg. I've
Mm.
got the slip disc thing going on as well, and pain, pain like I'd not known.
And isn't it interesting? It's often doing something as simple as you just said, like putting your sock on. It's not like heavy lifting. The amount of times that
Yeah,
people have told me that they've slipped a disc when they're doing something really simple, getting it,
yes,
getting something out of a cupboard or
and it's payback, Jill. It's payback for lifting some things I'd been lifting that weren't too bad, but I'd probably twisted a bit and doing some other things. And I'd said to somebody, no, let me get that.
mm.
And I probably should have shared the load. And so today I've mainly been in bed,
What's the
getting
treatment?
up,
Just rest or some
yeah,
physio or
rest and exercise, but I'm being a bit, I'd done not quite a bit. I've done a bit on Saturday. Went and saw my mom and a couple of other bits and pieces. Then realised that I shouldn't be driving. But then I've read it since, and it's if you don't know the feeling, you shouldn't drive. But I've read it
mm.
since, and you can drive on them, so it's okay. So today I've just been taking it easy. But what I wanted to talk about is the fact that the doctor had told me quite a bit about if I lose bowel control or wet myself or whatever, because I really couldn't move very well at all. A minute or two to stand up.
Yeah.
Um, and if it was that bad, then it'll be just ring 999, ambulance, surgery within 12, 24 hours. That's it.
Wow.
So, I mean, he'd prodded and poked and had a look. And actually, to be honest, I thought that was going to be more painful than it was, but it wasn't. Um, and I suppose I wanted to say this now, really, so that if anybody else felt they were going through it or feel, I just wanted to give an insight into how it's affected me. The doctor was no problem. That was all right. It took a little bit of time to get the medication through. I've never had diazepam, so I'm on diazepam
Right.
and cocodamol.
Oh, wow.
I've never
Really strong
used
stuff.
I've never used these two medications before. I've never piggybacked or whatever they call it, where you have ibuprofen and paracetamol at the same time. I've never had
Yeah.
to do that. So even through my arthritis, I've never had to do all of that. I'm dizzy a fair bit, which
Right.
I can put up with that. That's all right. But what I am doing, Jill, and I'm quite pleased with, is I can seriously relax now
You're
through
not
what I've been
obviously not
doing.
at work. You've had to cancel.
No, I've not cancelled.
Okay.
I've got my head in a good place. I've told people I am not doing any work other than my evening classes. And for my evening classes, I will be probably be sitting down. You guys get on with things.
Mm,
I will stand up and walk around if I need to. And I'm seeing that I've got it into my head that that's a little bit of exercise for me to sit down, stand up, keep in touch with my woodworking, keep all of that going.
mm.
And I actually, last Wednesday, before I was diagnosed and I was in quite a bit of pain, I was actually more comfortable showing somebody, because somebody wasn't using a plane very good, showing somebody how I plane a piece of wood. I was more comfortable because my body's so used to doing all of that, doing that than I was sitting down. It is crazy what your body gets
Mm,
used to.
mm. The
So it
muscles
really
that you
felt,
use and
yeah, so it felt quite comfortable. So I didn't mind doing that. But yes, the guys are going to carry on for the next three weeks. We've got a week off for Easter. Easter.
Easter. I know time's flying, but please.
Christmas. So we've
Yes.
got a week off for Christmas. And I've got my paperwork done. And I suppose what I've done, Jill, is I've got my head into a good place for this.
That's the most important thing.
And that's why I wanted to sort of talk to you. But
Mm.
then I found out we haven't done a podcast, and I thought, hang on, perfect timing, because it can be all about me. No, it doesn't have to be all about me, but it's just, I think it just shows that over the last few years, and with doing the podcast with you, doing my bit of Tai Chi, doing the yoga, doing all the mindful, more good stuff for my head, has put me in a really good place
Mm.
because I actually feel, don't tell anybody, I actually feel like the pain has gone from my, I think it's, so it was a slip disc, even though
Yeah.
I'm quite medicated.
I was just
So,
going to say, you sure this isn't the medication of diazepam and cocodamol and
well, even taking it, I could still feel the pain.
okay.
So I could still feel the pain. But what's happening is the pain was sort of, if you imagine the spinal cord coming down and splitting to go down either leg
Leg, yeah.
and to bits and pieces that it goes to, and some of that has been painful. I can tell you that as a man that's had a vasectomy, it's worse than a vasectomy. So I don't know what's going on there, but I've not felt pain down there since that. And I shouldn't even talk about it because now I'm talking about it, it's bloody happening again.
And
Um,
that's because you've put your focus on it, you see, Jamie.
yes,
It's
exactly.
absolutely, you put your focus on it
And it
and
hurts again.
suddenly it
Right.
hurts. There's a great thing when I was doing thought field therapy. I don't do the therapy side so much, but we would talk about the tooth shoe sofa situation.
Oh,
And
okay.
the way we would describe that is somebody would wake up, have horrendous toothache, think, oh my God, this is really, really painful. I need to get to a dentist straight away.
Yeah.
They'd go to the dentist. The dentist would say, I can't see you immediately, but I'll give you a Novocaine shot. Okay, so I'll give you a Novocaine shot and I'll be back out to see you in half an hour. And as soon as the pain of the tooth started to go away, they suddenly realized their feet hurt. And when they looked down, they'd got their shoes on the wrong foot. So they changed the pain. Their feet were painful. So they sorted their shoes
Yes.
out. And then guess what? They noticed that the sofa was really uncomfortable and they were sitting on a spring.
Yeah.
So it's a situation of you know, when pain goes from one place, you can notice it somewhere else, and then you can
Yes.
notice it somewhere else,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. So turn your attention to it as we're talking about it, and the
Yeah.
pain will increase because we're focusing on it.
Exactly. But because I've been chatting to you for these years and whatever, I'm seeing the benefits of this. I'm now seeing,
Hmm.
so I've got to say the problem with being sort of not bedridden, because I'm not bedridden, but the problem with being a little bit more relaxed and spending a bit more time in bed and whatever is on the Sunday, not yesterday, but last Sunday, when I didn't feel well. I made two purchases on eBay because I was on my bloody phone all day. So
Get away from that phone.
I
Take that
know, I
phone
know.
away
So it's
from
just like,
him.
so all I've purchased since then, so I'm doing well, is today I've purchased some pink and purple and whatever highlighter pens that I needed. £3.99. So that's okay.
Right.
But yes, just getting my head in a good place, knowing that, okay, this is fine, that's fine. I suppose what's happened, Jill, is I've been more in the present, not letting the future bother me
Yeah.
because focus on now, focus on being right now.
Focus on what you can control right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't worry about the future. Who knows?
I feel, as I say, so the pain at the moment is it feels like it's gone from the middle of the spine up a little bit, but down. It was going across both ways, both hips.
Mm.
It was one leg that was the nerve thing going down the one leg, but that's stopped now. It's just it actually feels like it's on my outer part of my hip joints now. And what I've told myself is, well, that's because you've been walking around like a fruitcake for the last few days, compensating for not being able to walk properly. You put
Yeah.
different pressure on those
On
joints.
different muscles.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my head's sort of being told, given the reasons why things are going, and I'm going to be fine
Yeah.
because they did say 6 to 12 weeks.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. A couple of
Uh,
things I think from this, Jamie, is look how fast life can change in an instant.
oh, blimey, yeah.
You know, with a slip disc or sciatica, or, you know, in my own family situation, my elder sister, you know, had a brain aneurysm, and just like in an instant, her
Mm,
life completely changed. I mean, hugely
yeah,
changed. She's lucky to be here, completely changed. And it's people live sometimes too far in the future, not thinking in some ways about what if, and particularly when you're self-employed, like we are, you know,
yeah.
you don't have sick pay that suddenly appears
No,
out of nowhere to rely on. And it's about kind of having some awareness of that. But
yes,
it's also, she said, it's that mindset thing that you work on and slowly, bit by bit, year after year, so that it becomes the automatic default.
yeah,
And you do it without thinking about it. And that's when a lot of people ask me sort of things and say, well, you know, do you have to get up? And I'm like, no, I don't have to get up every morning and remind myself of this and do this and do this and do this. It's like I do it automatically now.
yes,
It's who I am. That's how my brain works. And that's when you know it's that sort of moment of realization, oh, I'm doing this automatically.
mm,
I'm not having to get up and remind myself of, yes, you know, you're great, you look wonderful. I don't have to do those techniques, for want of a better word,
yes,
anymore
because they get
because it
embedded.
because they're just there.
Yeah,
You know, they're embedded.
yeah,
And you know, it's not being big-headed or anything about like that. And actually with this lady, it's actually on, I think, you know, a group that I belong to. Somebody said, oh, just for a laugh, you know, tell us one thing that you really like about yourself. And I was seeing people saying various things, and I commented and said, can I just say me? That's because I actually like me. You know, I don't want to highlight, oh,
yeah,
I like the way I do this, or I like the way that I do that. And I mean,
yes,
semi sort of joking, actually, I did think it made me think. It's the one thing I like about me. When people say, oh, you know, I'm really focused on stuff, or I can do this, or I can do that. And I sat there and I was thinking, actually, there's nothing that I would highlight. And actually, I thought, gosh, I'm really lucky. I'm in a place in my
yes,
life where actually there isn't a huge, I mean, even I'm saying a huge amount that I would change about me. I actually can't think of too much. I'm quite content with my life.
yes,
And somebody might see that as, am I lacking ambition? Or no, I'm at a point that I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I don't kind of go, oh, I'm looking old and look at this wrinkle and I've got grey hair and I hate this and I hate this and I hate this, because I don't. And that's not in a big-headed way, but it was quite funny how sort of something that was quite sort of a bit of a laugh made me think, oh, how interesting is this? Give me one thing you like about yourself. And I thought, there isn't one thing, there's
No,
multiple things. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, actually, then that means I like me.
yes, I think I'm with you on that.
It's
I think I'm
but
with you on that.
that's a mindset, and I consider myself very lucky that, yeah, actually, I am in a place, and it was that real kind of aha moment for me that made
Yeah,
me go, oh
yeah.
yes. So yeah,
So there you
but the
go.
pain thing, yeah.
That
So you've had a
that's
lot going on.
yeah, yeah, and it's been different because I've had to take so so I didn't do any driving yesterday. I did a little bit on, but actually, as I say, it said on the thing, "Don't drive." But I've since read the
Mm.
instructions, and the instructions say, if you're not used to it, if you are uncertain of the, so I am okay to drive it, but that's a weird thing as well. Driving, that's something else. This is just like you've just said about driving the
But
car.
becoming automatic.
Yeah, driving the car. I mean, I've been driving since I was 19. So what's that? That's nearly 40 years. Driving the
Yeah.
car, not a problem. Getting out of the car, wow. Getting in the car, yeah.
Wow.
Give me a minute or so to get out,
Yeah.
which must look terrible, but actually, no, quite comfortable driving, quite in control. Obviously drove slower, took it a little bit easy, went some of the easier roads rather than the quicker main roads, whatever. Um, but yeah, actually
But that's what
feel
people
really
suffer
good.
who need hip replacements. They get into a comfortable position, and then when they move, that's when they have the pain.
Well,
And it's
yes,
it's looking at, you're talking about muscles and muscle movement,
yeah,
and that's another reason as well, because we compensate. And so somebody who
yeah,
has a knee op, I've had lots of friends who've had replacement knees or replacement hips. And of course, for years, particularly if you're on the NHS, you learn to compensate.
yeah,
So you learn to use other muscles to walk very differently. When you suddenly have the hip operations, of course, it's really painful, A, because you've had a massive operation, but also because you're wanting to use muscles they want you to use muscles that you've never used for years and
no,
years and years, because you've compensated. So one friend, with the left hip would take a lot more stuff on the right. Now they've had the left hip changed, they've got to start using those muscles,
yeah,
and therefore it was agony, because you're using different back, literally all the whole body, really, down to your hips,
yeah.
all the way up your back to your shoulder, because of the way you hold yourself. So you're right, Jamie, it's suddenly using muscles that you hadn't used before.
And the other thing I didn't know, and I've obviously I've read a bit about it. Um, Sciatica reduces your muscle strength. So it's your body's way of stopping you from standing up and walking around. That's why I've
Mm,
struggled for a time. I'm not too bad now. I can't believe the difference in a week of what I've had to where I was midweek. If you'd have seen me midweek, and I know the medication's doing its thing, but I am doing some exercises. I'm doing some very, very gentle.
mm.
I'm not doing any major number. I'm just doing a little bit of stretching this way, that way. That's enough. I'm not going mad. There's no point in going mad. I just want my
No, it
body to
makes it worse.
remember that this is what it's got to be able to do for me.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's why you'll recover quicker as well, because I know with my physio friends that often they'll say people treat the physio appointment as the only physio they have to do. So
yeah,
the amount of people that are given the exercises, but then don't actually go away and do them all. They might do them for a day or 2 days, but then they come back and they're no further forward. And I know when I had a quite a bad frozen shoulder a few years ago, I actually did do all the exercises religiously.
yeah,
And luckily, it was a consultant I happened to work with, so he knew what I was like and that I would do them. And when I went into clinic, the nurse that came sort of said, "Oh my God, wow, she's amazing," And he very nicely said, "That's because Gill does the exercises
yeah,
3 times a day.
yeah. And you've got
This is the difference between a patient that does what they're they're told religiously, and other patients who just come in for their physio appointment and then kind of don't fit in the exercises during the day.
I know somebody who fell over and had and broke a wrist and didn't do any of the
Mm,
physio exercises and got a great big lump on the side of and can't bend past a certain point.
yeah,
And you just think,
yeah.
crikey, if you'd have just so. But as I'd messaged one of the girls because I'd said something to one of the daughters about something, and I said, well, I've got to do things right because this body's got to last me another 40 years.
And it is. It's about looking at
So
it at a much younger age. And of course, a lot of people don't, even in their 30s and 40s, aren't planning. And that's where lovely friend Wendy, who does Reclaim Movement,
yeah,
Wendy Welpton, and she does actually, you're really setting up in your 40s, your body for
for your
your
60s
60s,
and your
70s,
70s.
80s,
Exactly.
90s.
Yeah,
It's not doing it in your 50s. And she was a runner. She used to love to run, and like you, woke up one day, couldn't, it wasn't Saturday, couldn't get out of bed.
yeah.
Her back was completely gone. She was really in a bit of a depressive state, as
Mm,
she'll say. I did a podcast with her about, well, I can't run. What the hell am I going to do exercise wise? Because it was her go-to thing.
yeah.
And she has slowly, through movement, and that's why she's very much about it's how you move, it's how you hold yourself. It's not so much about running, but about prepping. So, right, it's looking after the body now
Yes.
for 20, 30, 40 years' time, isn't it? So you
So,
can
so
maintain balance, etc.
yeah. So my and I had planned to go to. I haven't been to yoga for a few weeks. I've been really naughty, but naughty because there's been things going on. So, but I planned on going to yoga the week before last, and then the car had MOT, so I had to go and pick the car up, and I
Mm.
walked to get the car from the MOT rather than getting someone to give me a lift, and then
Yeah.
thought about all these other things I'd done that week. And then I'd lifted this up, then I'd moved that. And it wasn't just one thing, but that week, pretty much every day, I'd done one or two things that were different to the norm.
So an accumulation of
Yeah,
stuff.
a bit heavier than normal, walking more than normal, because that was quite a walk to go and get the car. Yeah, so yeah, a lot gone on, but actually feel really good, really positive. I'd got my head in a good place. The other thing I'd done that
Mm.
you'd like is the fact that I thought, well, okay, well, I'm at home more. Fine. I've got plenty of video clips on my phone. If I've got to have some time off, I make more videos. Great, because that's part of my income now. So that's not a
Yeah.
bad thing to do.
It's just reframing.
Just yeah, it was just
Rather than dwelling on the,
yeah.
oh God, I can't do this, I can't do that. Okay, this is where I am.
And
What can I do? What can't I do? And reframe, and I'm going to make the best of it. If
yeah,
this means I've got to have a enforced break, and I don't mean as in
well,
bone break, but if this is an enforced break from work, a press pause that's enforced on me,
yeah.
then I'm going to make the most of it. I'm not going to sweat about what I can't do. I'll make the most of the situation that I'm in at the moment.
Well, it reminded me a little bit, and I'm not quite as good as you, Jill. I'm not quite as good. I'm nowhere near as good. I'm catching up. I'm catching up. It's a bit like you and your subsidence.
Yes,
As you've said,
subsidence.
there's nothing you can do about it till this. There's nothing. So don't stress it. Don't worry about it.
No,
It's not gonna. And I think some of that has rubbed off on me, and I've just thought, right, okay, that gives me the opportunity to do this. It gives me the opportunity to do that. So yes,
yeah.
I really wanted to ring you today to tell you what was going on, but also to say thank you.
Jamie, if I can help one person like you, and as you say, you just pick up little bits long enough, it then you do start to think differently, and
Yes,
life is different then, and you don't
yes,
have to actively do it, if you know what I mean. As you've
and
realized today, it's just kind of it's now become automatic to me that this is the way that I think.
yeah,
So again, when I'm looking with clients, I think, no, if I'm teaching you some stuff, I don't expect to have you as a client for, forever on
no,
a coaching type basis in that way. Mentoring slightly different with some of the corporates that I work with. But once you've got the technique, it shouldn't be, oh God, I felt terrible today. So now I had to get up and I had to do this and I had to do this and I had to do this. And this is how I changed my mindset. Well, actually, if you've changed your mindset years ago, then you don't have to think about
Yeah.
this is how I changed my mindset because that becomes my automatic default. But you're right, hey, let's not say I've done it straight away. This is what, nearly 20 years probably of 18, 20 years of just
A practice.
practicing,
A
of
practice.
practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then realizing I'm not having to practice anymore. It's like driving. And I always go back to a driving analogy. When you first learn to drive, you really have to think about it, don't you? You
Yeah.
have to think about, oh God, what gear am I in? Oh, I've got to do clutch, accelerator, brake, indicator. Oh my goodness, it's a roundabout.
Yeah.
You're really having to think about it. And that's, I think, when you start the process of changing how you think, then it's that. It's about, I have to think about what I'm doing. I have to be aware of what I'm thinking
Mm.
so that I can then control it. And then bit by bit, you get to pass your test. So now, okay, I'm kind of doing it. Oh, and then you realize you're doing it, if you know what I mean, and you learn a bit more.
Yeah.
And then you get to the phase where you drive automatically, don't you?
And
You
sometimes,
don't have,
and sometimes, if you're really, really good, you actually don't remember half the journey,
correct.
which
It's
is
called,
scary.
that bit's called self-hypnosis.
Is it?
That's what we would refer to as self-hypnosis.
Is
When
it?
people tell you, I can't be hypnotized, then a hypnotherapist, a good one like Paul McKenna, would say, yes, you can. Or Richard Bandler would say, yes, you can. Everybody can.
Yeah.
You've just not realized that you can do it. So, and they will use that exactly that example. Have you ever driven up a motorway meaning to be turning off and suddenly find you've missed your junction? And that's because you've gone into kind of self
Yeah.
hypnosis so that everybody is able to be hypnotized in that way. So
So,
it is,
so,
it's self hypnosis.
so, with everything I've been going through over the years, and with doing this podcast with you, all I'm going to say really to people is the more they listen to the podcast and the more they get a sort of not outsiders, because I'm not really an outsider. I've been sort of self-helping for donkey's years, trying
Mm-hmm.
to, but not had anybody, any sort of guidance. And you, with what you do, have put me right on certain things, which has been great. But it just shows that you can do without going to, like some people might go to therapy or whatever. You
Mm-hmm.
can do self-help. You can do your own thing. You can get in some good habits. You
That's
don't
the word, good habits.
you don't have to keep thinking, well, the negative stuff. I don't even want to say some of the stuff. I just want to say the negative stuff. Keep it as simple
Yeah.
as possible because I don't want to dwell on all of that. It's the positive is just it makes so much difference.
Yeah, and it's just letting all that go. It sounds easy, and I know people say, "Oh, that's much easier than you say." Yeah, it does, but it takes
Yes.
practice, and you just kind of go, "Okay, I'm just not going to get involved in that. I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to, let the anger. I'm going to drop, if you like. I'm just going to. I think Mel Robbins said, "I'm just going to let the sword drop." And she did a bit on Instagram about, let the anger go when you're wanting to fight and defend all the time. Just
Mm.
let it go and focus on the people that you love and the people that you like, rather than those people who are attacking you all the time. That's wasted negative energy. And I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I think that's part of it. But it's great. It's, as I say, for me, over the last week, I've got a completely blocked right ear, Jamie. So we're a right pair at the moment. And I've had it now for, oh, it's been 2 months. I've
Mm.
been to the doctor. It feels like I've got somebody tapping out Morse code in my ear all day when somebody talks or there's any noise going on. So listening now, it feels like somebody's tapping Morse code in my right ear. It's definitely a blocked ear. Been to the doctor, been back to the doctor, having done what the first doctor said, and said, look, this hasn't made any difference. It's a blocked eustachian tube. I know exactly what it is. And oh, no, no, now I've been given another nasal spray, steroid nasal spray, and go away. And oh, no, no, we can't refer you yet. You've got to use this for at least another 3 months.
Mm, yeah.
So I keep hoping, I keep trying to see if I can unblock my ear. But when you just think another 3 months,
Yeah.
please, ear, go. I've been trying to tip myself upside down to see if that makes any difference. I've done all the stuff because it's something I have had problems with before in my past,
Right.
is my right ear, particularly flying. So I used to, flew, got a
Yes.
blocked right ear, and must be the only person who went to see an ENT consultant about a blocked right ear and ended up with a nose operation. And I don't mean cosmetically. It discovered it goes way back. I've had 3 or 4 nose ops now, none of them the cosmetic side, and I'm quite happy with my nose.
It
Thank you very
looks all right.
much. Thank you. And I know I've got a lump in it. And each one has said to me, oh, we won't be getting rid of that bump when they were doing my bone. And I said, no, that's my bush bump. That's my dad's bush bump. I don't want that bump removing. And very long story short, basically, I have got a very small nasal cavity. So when people
Right.
say breathe through your nose,
Yeah.
I find that quite difficult. They have cleared it a couple of times, and then third operation, they took some bone away in the middle. But what it means is I struggle to clear the nasal cavity. I don't know
Right.
what the
Okay.
proper medical term is, at the
Yeah.
back of your nose.
Yes.
I think it's clear. And when I had an x-ray, they said, do you think you're clear today? And I said, yes. And they said, no, you're kind of at least a third blocked back there. So then, of course, the flying would just
Right.
exasperate it and push it up into my eustachian tube. And then it just solidly blocked. So I think I'm in that situation. But you think, oh God, new doctor. And okay, this was so many years ago. So I had to give her all the history. Oh, well, we'll just try. And I was just like, oh God, okay. So it's great. Can't hear my right ear.
I've got one more thing,
Go on.
and you'll have the answer to this, Jill.
Oh, good.
Why?
No pressure then
So, oh, two things. Two things.
before we go.
First thing is I before I'd got painkillers, I got it into my head that hang on, I know this is back pain and whatever, but women have babies all the time, and the main thing
Mm-hmm.
that they're told to do is breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and I must have sounded like a blooming train here because I was just big deep breaths, and as I was
Breathe.
doing deep breaths, I was doing the movement that. So if I was going to sit up, I would take a big deep breath and move at the same time. So my
Yeah.
body was focusing on the breathing and not the pain at the time.
Yeah.
That made a huge difference. And I think that's probably helped not get too damaged.
Yeah.
The other thing I've done, and that makes sense, doesn't it? Breathing
Yeah. Yeah.
to manage pain.
Absolutely.
Women do it,
It's
but men
something
don't
that
really
is
do.
actually when people have long-term pain and they go to a pain specialist,
Right.
which always makes me laugh as an NLPer. Why would you want to go to a pain specialist? I want to go to an anti-pain specialist, not a pain specialist, is about deep breathing. And that's what in yoga. I don't do yoga. I'm a Pilates type person.
Yeah.
It's about breathe through it.
Yeah.
And you're quite right. When you're giving birth, they tell you to breathe.
Yeah.
And they'll say, I remember with Clive, funny story, the midwife was saying, tell Jill, breathe in, breathe out. Well, we were doing the complete opposite. And she came back in and said, forget that, that's not working. So he was saying breathe out, and I was wanting to breathe in. Then I was trying to breathe out. It was hysterical, really, at the time, in a very interesting situation, giving birth to our son. But yeah, breathing is,
Breathing.
we don't do it properly. I mean, even though I'm aware of it and I try and really breathe deeply,
Yeah.
most of us these days are shallow breathers
And mouth breathers, but I've been
and
breathing,
mouth breathers.
and I've got to be honest, I've been practicing my nose breathing for so many years now that I'm so conscious that unless I'm more conscious now than when, like now I'm talking. When you
Mm,
talk, you tend to breathe through your mouth because it's
mm.
sort of quicker, which sort of bothers me a little bit, but it's what we do. Um, but yeah, it's so the nose breathing makes such a difference. So that got rid of some pain. So the other thing that I've found has helped, and you're going to either call me crazy or yes, it makes sense. Humming,
Ah, that makes perfect sense.
humming.
I've just read, have you seen some research? I don't know if it's been public. I've read some research. Jamie, this is like the universe putting it out there. I was talking to a client literally today,
No
and I've seen
way.
some recent research about humming and how the vibrations and what you have
Yeah,
to do in the
yeah,
brain makes a huge difference, which is why not singing, it
yeah.
must be humming.
Humming. It's the
And that again, I mentioned
vibrations.
TFT earlier, so thought field therapy earlier. In thought field therapy, the one thing that we did, we have what's called a 9G sequence. So we would talk people through, and part of the sequence that we do, because it's 9 things, is you're tapping the back of your hand in a particular place between your ring finger and your little finger in that little valley there. We get people tapping there. And what we do is we get them to hum,
Mm.
count to 5, and then hum again. And people would always want to sing, and I'd say, no, it must be a hum, not really knowing fully. Well, the research, I was literally reading about it last week, that humming, and there is now research,
Yeah,
says, yep, absolutely, it reduces anxiety, it reduces
yes,
stress, which of course is all part of the pain
yes.
thing.
Well, I could,
It immediately reduces things, because if you can reduce the anxiety and reduce the stress,
yeah,
you're not focusing on the pain, and all of that adds to the pain. It's like you feel terrible, you're sure you're having, as soon as a paramedic appears, the 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 stress and the anxiety disappears, and you suddenly feel a lot better.
yeah. So there you
Yeah,
go.
psychosomatic, as they
That's
would
what
call it.
that's what I've been up to. I'd heard about humming a good 12 months ago. I say I heard about it. I saw something, I don't know, Instagram or
Mm,
whatever, and didn't think much of it. But the more you see these funny little clips of something, and then I just thought I've got to stop my mouth from going ah when I had a sharp pain. So I sort of hummed my way through it. If I wasn't breathing
hmm
through my nose, I was humming and good vibes
Did
and
absolutely the right thing. And I'm sure it appeared as well in the press, because when you get a coincidence, well, it's your filter.
yeah,
Because I'd read about
yes,
it, I obviously then saw a headline which I focused on, which I then read that article. And I think it was only literally last week, and I was using it with a client today.
there you
And I
go.
said to her, just hum. And it helps, and the research there to back it up. So keep humming,
Keep
Jamie.
humming,
There's plenty of Christmas songs you can
keep
keep humming.
keep
Keep breathing.
breathing
Of
because that's
course,
helpful.
breathing's really important.
Yeah,
Yes, that's helpful.
and then humming and yeah, no, it's not bad really.
And rest. And
That's
yeah,
what I'm
look after
doing.
yourself.
That's what I'm doing.
Luckily, if we say we've got Christmas coming up in 3 weeks, I can't believe we're here. And dare we say happy Christmas to everybody, and thank you to our loyal listeners. Actually, we had quite a lot of comments after the last one. There was a lot more people.
Was
I don't know
there?
what happened, whether you shared it or people, because of what we put in the wording underneath about it. But we had a real spike in listeners after the last one.
I
So
I think I'm aware that I've not shared the last one or the previous one. I'm getting rubbish at it sometimes, Jill, but I am talking about it more. And a couple of my evening class guys know about it as well. And I think they're picking up on some of
right
the good
stuff.
habits.
Yes. And also, I think if I've done it correctly, we'll find out, is I've managed to link the feed to my YouTube channel.
Oh, okay, great.
So it will automatically go to my YouTube channel as an audio, because
Wow.
obviously I don't do it as a video. And
Wow.
I can go back if I get a chance to do it. That might be over the Christmas week. I can go back and put some of the old episodes
Oh, well,
onto the YouTube channel, so people will also be able to listen to the podcast via YouTube. And whenever we want to get around to doing the video bit, then obviously that can be loaded up as well. So
yes.
there you go.
And I think
I'll find out tomorrow.
if you can link me, which is by just going at TWC Maker, the Worcestershire Cabinet Maker, at TWC Maker, you can at me on YouTube. I'll get a
Right, so I go to
notification.
YouTube in the same way. Right,
Yeah,
okay. Well, we'll see. I'll have
sort
to
that. Yeah,
remember when we release it to have a look on, on Wednesday when they come out, and see if it has gone onto my YouTube channel.
that'd be
If not,
great.
I'll have to work it out. But fingers crossed, it'll be on there as well.
Well,
So
yeah, and then I'd be able to share as well, easier on YouTube because the audience is huge,
yeah, yeah, I've worked that one out.
huge.
And I therefore then have to set up. So I'll be coming back to you. Clive's learning a lot from you. So thank you for that as well with regards to YouTube. But that's a whole other thing. You keep saying, Jamie says, because I keep saying, Jamie says you must do this and you must do
Okay.
that. So he's learning as well. So to everybody that's been listening to us throughout 2024, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We hope that you've picked up some tips along the way, and to Jamie and I just chatting along. Jamie, I hope that your slip disc gets better and that you can have a pain-free Christmas. And we will be back in the new year, whatever the first Wednesday is after. So it must be seven. Is it the 8th of January? Then it must be, if I add 7 and 1, I think it'll be Wednesday the 8th. But I, for one, have really enjoyed chatting to you through this year, and look forward to continuing next year.
Yes, thank you, Jill. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. And we'll speak to you in 2025.
Wow. Cheers.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.